Hello and welcome to show 1398. Wow, almost 1,400 episodes of stand-up, and I cannot do it without you. So thank you. Thank you for listening, for pressing play, for leaving comments, and especially for your paid subscriptions, because this is my job. This is what I do every day, and I am so happy you appreciate it and hope that you will consider a paid subscription if you haven't already. So many of you already have, and I am so grateful. I was happy to see many of you last night. We had a great time at the Hangout. I'll talk more about that in a second. Just want to let you know, on the show today, Mediaite Colby Hall. We talk about all the latest media narratives and politics and political media. And Bill Boyle joins me to talk about the State Department cuts, Russia, Ukraine, and so much more. Really great conversation with both Colby Hall and Bill Boyle, both them coming up. Also want to mention I should be live at 10 a.m. on Tuesday with the great Tim Wise on YouTube and Twitter. Facebook. That's where I go live. So yeah, I should be live with Tim Wise at 10 a.m. Tune in to that. But yeah, last night's hangout was a lot of fun. I think it was over 2 hours. Almost 2 hours? Yeah, almost 2 hours. And we had some serious conversations about Epstein and the news, other news issues, but it was a lot of laughs and ridiculousness and nonsense and joking around. We had a great time and some thoughtful conversation too, including when Dr. Terry talked about her kind of mental health hygiene, her spiritual practice, and how her reading has influenced her daily life in such a positive way. She has done that with me privately. We've talked about how we both read Pema Chodron and consider her a teacher, the author of Taking the Leap. If you haven't bought the book, Taking the Leap or Everything Falls Apart, both those books, I highly recommend you get both of those books. Taking the Leap and Everything Falls Apart, Pema Chodron, Chodrun. Terry was talking a little bit about her last night, some other things, and the reason I mentioned specifically that is because that's where we pick up with the great Gareth Sever's song. So Gareth is a super talented singer-songwriter and percussionist, performer. You can see him and his partner Matt in Buckets and Boards. That's what they do, touring the country and cruise ships. Very entertaining, super talented, and Gareth is very smart and thoughtful and funny, like so many of us here in the stand-up community. And so he is also super talented and original as like a singer-songwriter, and just he's done this so many times. It's such a wonderful thing. He hangs out with us, chimes in like anybody else, sometimes more, sometimes hardly any, but he's there listening and often jotting down notes or something, because at the end of the hangout, he writes a song sometimes recapping some of the things that people said. And he did such a good job last night, and he sings it to us at the end. And so I asked him, I go, would you record that? I know it's a little out of context for people who were not at the hangout, but one of the things Dr. Terry was talking about with her spiritual practice is she said that on days when she needs to adapt or gets thrown a curveball, or in moments like that, she has this phrase that she repeats, I am a willow and I can bend. And I said it, and I made everybody say it like it was nursery school last night. It was really fun. We had a great time. Gareth sang this song, and I want to share it with you here, just to get us started in a good mood, I hope.
I'm a willow, I can bend. I keep saying it till I really listen. I'd like to be a shining light, but anger's always just below the surface, and I'm itching for a fight. I hop in my hybrid to go buy some hybrid. They say now it's pretty much all hybrid. Roll it up and get hybrid. Suddenly I can see it so clear. We're all a hybrid of love and anger and kindness and fear. We've got this one life to live. If we can just do a little less taking and a whole lot more give. You never know when it'll be too late, or when you'll be invited out to dig your own grave. Do your best while you still can. Hold your head up high while you're still somewhat proud to be an American. I know we got a hell of a lot of work to do, but please give yourself grace and keep on working on you. Oh.
Yeah. Gareth Sever, so good. The hybrid thing was about how I was talking about at the weed store. The guy said, everything's hybrid now. But then he turned that I mean, these are all comments that people made, basically, and he turned it into that wonderful song, inspiring and hopeful and positive, and I love it. I love you, Gareth, and so does everybody else. That was so great last night, and just another testament to why you should come to the Hangouts. Bob Schwartz came for the first time last night. I opened it up to unpaid listeners, those of you who are unpaid Patreon members. Every once in a while, I'll invite you guys to the Hangout, and a couple came last night, and Bob was there, and we tried to convince him to sign up. So anyway, that's just one great reason, and Gareth is one great reason. Go support his work at Buckets and Boards. If you get the opportunity to see him and Matt live, definitely take it. Many of you have and have reported back. It is a great show. I still haven't, but I hope I get to. Okay. All right. Well, I've got your headlines, and then I think I'm going to jump right into my interviews because I am already running late this morning. But just wanted to mention a few things here at the top on a Tuesday in July. It is July 15th. And on the 17th, my daughters returned from Sicily after a 3-week trip with their mom to the homeland. And I'm real excited to have them back. Even though Ava's going to go back into her apartment in New York City pretty quick, let's start there because it flooded. That's right. New York flooded. New York City, parts of Manhattan, New Jersey. Heavy rains flooding parts of the subway. New Jersey declared a state of emergency. Parts of Virginia and Pennsylvania had flash flood warnings. It was crazy right out my window yesterday for a few hours. It came hard and fast. In central Texas, was once again been hit with heavy rains and flooding, prompting rescues and evacuations just 10 days after catastrophic flooding hit the region, killed more than 130 people across the state. Over the weekend, rains returned to the region, inundating already saturated soils and halting search efforts on Sunday. So that's pretty terrible. Also terrible, a lot of education news. It's time for a conversation with Andrew Spar. Are you listening, Andrew? Reach out to him later. He's a longtime listener and president of the Florida Education Association. 3 progressive justices dissented, but the Supreme Court granted the Trump administration's bid to lift a judge's order that had required reinstating about 1,400 fired Department of Education employees. Well, the unsigned order, because that's what it is, the shadow docket, issued Monday via the so-called emergency docket, did not offer any rationale for the majority of the majority in the Supreme Court allowing these firings to be carried out while this litigation continues. I mean, it's crazy. But the Supreme Court decision allowing our tiny mad tyrant to destroy the education department, as he has so many other agencies already, it's only July, represents an expansion of presidential power, apparently. It lets Trump gut a government department created by Congress without legislators' input. It's crazy. I mean, how is this possible? How is this legal? It's not. And it's unprecedented. And it's really, really bad. And I want to know what it means. What does it mean? What are the consequences here for schools, public education around the country? And now 24 states are suing the Trump administration over nearly $7 billion in education funding. Our Mad King has apparently, in other news, appointed a guy whose last job was helping companies to avoid taxes. His new job, he's the government top tax policy official. So he was a lobbyist and lawyer helping companies, big companies, avoid paying taxes. And now he's in charge of companies paying taxes. You understand? That's always with Republican administrations, putting the wolf in charge of the hen house. Let's see, what else do I have for you? Yesterday, former President Barack Obama said in a speech that his party's leaders needed to step up in their fight against Trump and stop whining. He was heavily criticized for his advice from the different angles that I was reading on social media, but want to mention that. I don't know what you think of it. Temporary measures that allowed nearly 12,000 Afghans to work in the U.S. and be protected from deportation are expiring yesterday as part of the Trump administration's efforts to make more people eligible for removal from the country. The Department of Homeland Security in May said it was ending temporary protected status for 11,700 people from Afghanistan in 60 days. That status had allowed them to work and meant the government could not deport them. Imagine that, having to go back to Afghanistan and live your life in fear. This is fucking horrible. And I can't believe that the veterans community is not making even more noise. I'm sure they are making noise. I was about to say I can't believe that the veterans community isn't stopping them. But I mean, A lot of people are and are trying to, but this is just horrible, and it's really, really sad to see. And I hope something can change for these people somehow. Legally, they can stay here. Israel's defense ministry suggested relocating much of Gaza's population into a small zone along the Egyptian border. So if that's not one of the definitions of genocide, moving people from their home. The proposal, which some legal experts liken to ethnic cleansing, could derail efforts to reach a truce with Hamas. This is a proposal came from the defense ministry of Israel. Relocate them. Just put them over here. They already did that many times, and they're just continuing to do that in this long, long fight and war. And now another step backwards for consumers' interests here in the good old U.S. of A. A federal judge in Texas reversed a Biden-era rule on Friday that permitted medical debt to be wiped from credit cards. According to court documents, U.S. District Judge, 2019 appointee of President Trump, said the rule by the previous administration exceeds the authority of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that created it. The CFPB did so much to protect average Americans that are getting duped, hoodwinked, scammed, and taken advantage of. That's what the CFPB was doing, and they were adapting to the hustlers that come up with these scams every day as quickly as they could, and Trump is making it harder. So we have to all be more vigilant, warn each other of all kinds of different things that are happening, because government ain't going to do it, at least not at the federal level. And I saw this morning, China's economy apparently is growing. What? They grew steadily in the spring despite Trump's tariffs. And also, exports to Europe and Africa have jumped. EU officials have a plan to retaliate now against U.S. tariffs in a related story. But that's crazy that China's economy, they're not suffering, apparently. It's not working. Trump's trade war against China is shockingly not working. They're actually getting new customers because Trump has managed to turn everybody off, piss everybody off when it comes to trade and several other things. And this, an amendment demanding that Trump's administration release all of the files related to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, was shot down by Republicans on the House Rules Committee on Monday. Again, Republicans had an opportunity to vote to release the Epstein files, and they said no. They said no. They voted no. The plot thickens every day with this insane story. And did you see Trump at the FIFA World Cup Sunday night? It was bizarre. I forgot to talk about that at the Hangout last night, when he just oddly continued to hover after he gave the trophy. The presidents seemed unsure whether they were supposed to begin celebrating, because the dude was just standing there, like an old dude, and the whole stage was rocking. It was crazy. I really wanted it to collapse. All right. Well, what else can I tell you? Oh, one more story I wanted to mention. A Republican congressman named Corey Mills of Florida, a real POS. Apparently he owes his Washington landlord $85,000 in unpaid rent. It's great. It's a fun story. I wanted to mention there at the end. All right, those are the headlines, and I don't have any clips because I'm running way late. No clip show. There's a lot of good stuff out there, so I hate to miss it. But I want to get this show up and get ready for my live conversation with Tim Wise at 10 a.m. So I hope I'll see you there. And sorry I don't have a clip show, but I do have two great conversations, two great guests right now. Coming up, a really thoughtful, thought-provoking conversation with our friend Bill B in D.C., Bill Boyle, and I roll right into it out of my conversation with the great Colby Hall of Mediaite, who I spoke to yesterday. This happened yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, and you could watch it on YouTube Live. If you're subscribed over there, it lets you know that I'm going live when I go live. But both these conversations are great. Both these guys are great. I love talking to them. I hope you'll support them both on social media. Read Mediaite, and that is it. Let's get it started with Colby Hall. Colby Hall, Mediaite, with his Peabody in the shot. I got to go get mine.
You know what I was going to do? I got two of those statues. I only won one, but I have one for home and one for my office when I had an office. I was thinking of making one, like putting it on a chain like Flava Flav, like walk around with a Peabody hanging around my neck.
How did you get? I just got the one. Mine is for being the fluffer at the Colbert Report.
Mine is for working on a pro-social Fight for Your Rights campaign for MTV.
Oh.
The show that I produced was The Secret History of Virginity. It was a good show. Got a lot of people talking about, losing it in a very kind of sweet way. And there was also an HIV one as well that I think was probably, but they were gracious to include me. So I was happy to get it.
I love that. It sounds like you're pro voting rights. It sounds like you gave your opinion away on that one.
I am pro voting and pro democracy. I know that's kind of a crazy idea these days, but yeah, I think power to the people.
All right. Well, there's a lot to talk with you about other than our past accomplishments. And I'm always happy when you're available. Mediaite, I go there like 10 times a day. Yep. And you've got some great stuff up right now, a lot of it dealing with everything regarding the Epstein files. And I'm pretty obsessed with it and want to talk with you about it. Just your analysis of like the fallout of it. You've covered the Trump administration 1 and 2. You've seen it all. We've all heard things like walls closing in, and we hear this phrase MAGA civil war a lot. But where do you settle, and what are you hearing from the masses, certainly in the MAGA movement, if this is ever going away? Because I know Daddy just called everybody and told them to stop.
Right. This is, I think, just a fascinating story, and I think it's got legs, right? I think what we're seeing is, honestly, like the conspiratorial sort of DNA of the MAGA movement, which was really led by Trump going back. You know, his first foray into politics was really about Obama's birth certificate and how he wasn't really an American citizen. And you know, it's, you know, Russia hoax, and there's in the 2020 stolen election, like it's never ended. And Trump basically, you know, sort of allowed this Epstein conspiracy, which is tied into like QAnon and this cabal of progressives who are like drinking the blood of babies. And it's just so bizarre. But there was this real promise, you know, led by Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, that when they got into office, they were going to basically lead powerful people in handcuffs. You know, these are like politicians and influencers, what have you. And so when they announced in a memo that it was all going away, it did not go over well. And when Trump basically said, I can't believe we're still talking about this is over, it made him look like, I wrote about it as like the Frankenstein monster sort of idea, that like they created this monster to terrorize other people. And then that monster that they've created is terrorizing their own village, right? And it's out of control. So cut to this weekend, there was the Talking Points USA conference in Detroit, which is kind of a weird camp for conservative students.
Yeah. And that was young people there this weekend, huh?
Yeah, these are college students. And that's what TPUSA is. Charlie Kirk's organization. He wields a ton of power, super pro-Trumpy, to a person. Laura Ingraham, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson even called out Trump, you know, saying that it was, you know, in poor form to ask about Epstein following all these sort of the Texas flood and the deaths that occurred there, which is stunning. So cut to Saturday night, he put out this crazy social media post that basically said, stop talking about it. This isn't, there are no files, but it's a conspiracy, created by crooked Hillary and Barack Obama and Joe Biden and James Comey. And it's like, what? It was the most bonkers twist to this sordid story that, yes, it's a conspiracy, but it's a conspiracy out to get me, which makes no sense. And people aren't buying it. So on Sunday, Fox News covered it a little bit, but by Monday, zip, nothing. And Charlie Kirk even said that he spoke to Trump, and Charlie Kirk is like, yeah, I'm done talking about it, which suggests that those guys are way more interested in obeying Trump's direction than they are appealing to a MAGA audience, which I think is a split that's going to be a fascinating thing to see unfold for some time.
It's hard to know what's going to happen with it. It's a weird thing. Charlie Kirk one day was ranting and asking his minions and followers to vote first for their voices and with their hands if they wanted, I think, Pam Bondi fired over this. Like, everybody has an opinion on this. Furthermore, it's a real simple thing that they promised voters and supporters, not unlike, you know, if I'm elected, I'll give everybody $1,000 check. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Did I get my check yet? If I'm elected, we're going to release all the files, the JFK, the MLK, most importantly, those Epstein files. You're going to get them. And they waited, and they waited, and they gave him something. It was nothing. And then you saw Bongino and Kash Patel, who made part of their careers out of ranting about the Epstein files, have to bite their own dicks and be like, no Epstein files, it's all gone. And now here we are, and it's just gonna go away. It's why? Because he's threatening them with access. If you say one more thing, you have no access to me, and I'll trash you. So is him not only not supporting Charlie Kirk or any of the rest, and criticizing them enough for them to lose money and audience, because Bannon never stops. Whatever he threats Bannon with, Bannon doesn't back down. If he thinks a thing, he doesn't give a shit what Trump says.
It's a classic like mob boss thing. Like, it would be a real shame if something bad were to happen to your podcast, right? Like that's the thing that he's suggesting. But the MAGA coalition is so big at this point that, like, I think inevitably it's going to balkanize, right? It's going to fracture the coalition. I mean, we saw it a little bit around the Israel-Iran thing, where there was the interventionists versus the isolationists. This is more about, or you've led us to believe that there is this vast conspiracy, and we voted for you. And I saw someone that was on Fox News, Media Buzz, not a great show, but there was a political expert that said that her study showed that the one issue that is a common theme throughout the MAGA coalition is this idea that, the Jeffrey Epstein, the belief in the Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy. And to a person, 90% of them all believe that this is something that needs to be uncovered. And so when Trump suddenly turns tail and says, like, nope, nothing to see here, this like Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi mind trick, it just plays into that conspiratorial theory. And so, you're right to kind of joke the walls are closing in on Trump. That's been a meme forever, and it's never closing in. And I don't think that this is going to be the end of his administration or his support. But I do think you're seeing a split between the establishment media, the Fox News, the Charlie Kirks, the people that are making serious money off of this, and a lot of people who are just suddenly thinking Trump is in on it, right? Like and I don't know what it is. Like you see all these theories, and it seems like a terrible.
I don't know what I care more about, though. I care about the kids, and there's been, I think Trump said, if not him, somebody, like some crazy number of kids who were kidnapped and trafficked under Biden, which is,
Pam Bondi, I think, said something like 10,000. Maybe those were videos.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy what they're saying, but I just don't know if I care more about the trafficked kids or racial purity. I think I care more about racial purity. And so as long as we continue building concentration camps and snatching anyone that looks like they might be off-white off the streets everywhere.
Well, you make an interesting point, because this whole sort of thing about MAGA and belief in Jeffrey Epstein is really inconsequential. It's only interesting in as much as that we care about the political makeup and the ebbing tides of support that Trump has among the populace that love him and truly believe that there's this vast pedophile conspiracy run by the government, right, as some sort of like intel or blackmail operation. But that's all a massive distraction to the fact that like the 10th most well-funded defense organization in the world is ICE, right, as a result of this stupid bill. And they are basically black bagging people without any due process and just deporting them because
of, you just helped me solve it, because of another conspiracy. This conspiracy is that there's 60 million murderers and rapists here illegally, and Joe Biden left them in. Everything is a conspiracy based on a grain of truth. Of course there's sex trafficking. Of course Epstein was a bad guy. Of course there's illegal, undocumented immigrants that murder and rape people. But these are not the epidemics that he and right-wing media make them out to be. These are problems that need solving.
Right. It's
jumping from one conspiracy theory to another. It's which one do I care the most about? Right. And I would argue it's the one that threatens me the most. And the one that threatens me the most is the one that threatens my racial purity and is going to rape my children and rob me and murder me and take my job. And I'm kind of joking a little bit, but he's literally said that they do all of these things. And if you think, like many people in my neighborhood, the safest in the country, that they're coming for you, then that would be the thing I care about the most.
Well, I mean, I saw Brian Stelter talk about this Friday night on CNN, and he made a good point, and that was all of this is downstream from a deeply sort of unhealthy cynicism and belief in the government, right? All of this is symptomatic to the fact that the MAGA people that buy into all this and sort of otherize people of color and feel like there needs to be some sort of like racial purity to the nation's makeup. There's a deep, deep distrust of sort of what the government can and should do. And all of that is symptomatic of sort of like Reagan-era Republican philosophy that all government is bad government. Is there inefficiencies and bad governments? Absolutely, but there's lots of examples of good and efficient government.
I mean, you just look at the federal government employees. Like, I don't know how many friends you have in the federal government, but like, I try to interview and talk with as many people as I can to talk about how much waste, fraud, abuse there is. But you're absolutely right with that. But I mean, it starts with Reagan, but then media picks it up, and nobody covers that better than you guys. And back to. Do you ever get tired and say a bit about the influence of this? I mean, like, they're like Batman cartoon people. It's like Alex Jones and Laura Loomer and Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk and even the goons over at Fox, including like friends of mine, former friend Will Cain used to be one of my closest friends. Like, there's so many people in media and then, of course, in politics that are just – it's like, are you for real? Like, are you really? And so Laura Loomer might have as much influence on anybody else. How much do you get tired of covering them and trying to know who's got the most influence on this Epstein thing or anything else? How are we supposed to know and watch and know who's got our fate in their hands? Laura Loomer.
I mean, to answer your question, like, I have ADHD and I'm addicted to news, right? So like, I found the perfect job. But I do struggle with the fact that, like, what Mediaite does, I mean, I've tried to pivot to write more columns because I find that a lot of what we do is answer the question, what have I missed, right? And so if that's your value proposition, to use a bad marketing term, you're sort of adding to the distractify economy, right? You're kind of playing into those hands. And so I struggle with that. To your other question of these sort of like cartoon character villains, I realized this when I had a fight with Tucker Carlson on his show it was after the Vegas gun massacre, and he had me on as a patsy to try to get me. And I fought back pretty good, but it was clear to me, and I called him out, like, he's a nihilist. Like, he is like sort of the progenitor of the form, where he doesn't necessarily believe in anything. I mean, he purportedly acts like he does, but Laura Loomer, Charlie Kirk, they are all willing to sort of, they very cynically are trying to round up and monetize eyeballs, that they do so with the most over-the-top sort of outrageous things that they say. Trump is a master at it and does it in sort of like wrapped in patriotism, but they know that, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And that's a Kanye West quote that he said to Charlemagne the God during a radio interview that I helped produce back in the day, but like, he was right. And these people, the more crazy, over the top and outrageous things they say, the more attention they get. And this is where I struggle with Mediaite, because
I understand your struggle, and I do. And I think it's important to talk about that in media and how we're addicted to it and this distractify economy within it and pumping out stories. But at the same time, I guess I'll defend the idea of it to a certain extent, because it's not like you're just covering what someone said. Like, right. These people have a tremendous amount of influence over their audiences, and I would argue our electeds, our policymakers. You can, at the state level or the federal level, even if you're a senator, much less a governor or the president of the United States, if Hannity comes for you or less, it's going to matter. It matters. It's so much power. Not really that similar, I think, in the progressive media for a lot of reasons we could talk about. But Laura Loomer, for example, has as much influence on the president of the United States as potentially his chief of staff? Anybody? Apparently.
She was the one that basically sort of sold Trump on the eating cats and dogs, the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. And that came out right after she changed herself once to the Twitter HQ because she was banned from Twitter, right? She's bizarre is the most charitable way to describe her, right? And something that made me think about this is today there's a headline, I don't know if it's a post up on Mediaite, but Jake Paul, the sort of crazy YouTube person turned fighter, he got mocked for saying that, America is basically turned into an idiocracy. And a lot of people are sort of like mocking him for that. But the thought occurred to me that that's actually a smart take. That just because he's a dum-dum and is sort of like pro-Trump kind of goofball, like, we're going to mock him. The other side to that is that it puts in perfect, I think, stark relief that he and all these people purely see this as, I'm going to just say or do anything without responsibility, And just if I can like sell soap against it, monetize it, and make a ton of money. And there's this deep like sort of lack of responsibility in these independent media types that are now becoming very influential people within the White House, because Trump seems to value, how hot you are. Like that's his thing. Like,
well, yeah, but yes, I'm just looking at that Jake Paul thing. He wrote, "Idiocracy is the movie happening in front of our eyes. So sad. People are so miserably dumb, so dumb, and they don't even know it. How do we help them? Seriously asking." Huh.
Well, I don't know if that's a self-aware, like how insightfully, because that's a pretty searing kind of satire, and it was oddly predictable, right? And a lot of smart people I know is like, oh my God, we've become the idiocracy. So, but when he says it, people are like, oh, that's a terrible thing to say. Like, well, maybe he got one right. I don't know, but I think it belies a larger sort of like skepticism that people are just looking to cash in, and again, there's zero responsibility for their platform.
I do think that one thing that is true, I'll go back to I started it and I'll end with, and I usually do when I'm talking about right-wing, modern day right-wing Republicans, much less in media. You mentioned Tucker Carlson, and he doesn't really have any core beliefs, and he's a nihilist, and I forget what other phrase you use, but I was watching him at Turning Point USA, and the one thing that he's very, very consistent on, probably consistent on several things, but one thing he's very consistent on is his racism. His white supremacy it seems to be his best card, and he seems to really play it as often as he can in the most provocative ways allowable. I mean, I would say it wasn't allowable up until a few years ago. It still shouldn't be, but somehow people don't get fired for saying the most racist, really white supremacist. In his case now, like he's converted into like some weird Christian. Remember, he had a dream where he was attacked by a demon. He showed scratches. He's really trying to get himself, I think, accepted by.
I don't think he. I've had breakfast with him. I've spoken to him on the phone. Anyone that knows him, I mean, he's a big gossip, and I avoid any relationship with him because, I don't like to talk to people that I largely cover. But he, privately, he's far more normal, but when it's performative, right? So he's like saying crazy attacked by demon things in the middle of my night to appeal to the same people who are going to buy survivalist products and seeds that they can grow in their basement. It's straight. It's what Alex Jones kind of cracked the code. And I don't think it's, it's the same snake oilery that, imagine snake oil salesmen in the sort of the 1800s, imagine them with YouTube, right? There's a sucker born every minute, and a lot of Tucker Carlson is shameless. Although I will say, the fact that he's openly mocking and turning against Trump on this it's not insignificant, and will be interesting to see follow.
Well, I'll be interested to see what you write next about it. A lot more to talk about. I could talk to you for 10 hours. Every time we talk, I always say we got to do this more. We should probably just do something regular. If not,
this is a good rehearsal. We should record it now.
Oh, okay. It's on.
Jokes. I got jokes all day for jokes.
Watched and who will listen tomorrow. Colby, anything else to plug besides Mediaite?
No, just I want people to be nice to each other. And
have your sons accomplished anything recently? Didn't someone graduate?
Both kids graduated from college and high school, and my kid in Savannah's moving back in with me. Ooh. And my younger kid is a huge disappointment who's in the other room. Here. There's my Tommy Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Hall.
Oh, Tommy. There goes the letdown.
There we go. Anyway, good stuff.
Never say that about his kid if he ever felt it. He wouldn't say it. He clearly feels the opposite. Thanks, Colby. Really appreciate you joining me. I'll see you later.
Thanks, mate. Have a good one.
All right. Colby Hall is gone, and look who's here. It's Bill Boyle. William Boyle.
Peter, how are you this morning?
I mean, I just wanted to have you come on and talk about Ireland's native daughter, Rosie O'Donnell. I just thought of her right when I did the Irish because I saw you and Rosie, of course, moved to Ireland, and then Trump's trying to take away her citizenship because she's been critical of him. That's, every day, every hour, there's a new crazy thing that has never been done. But I don't think you can take someone's citizenship for their criticism, Bill. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me and combing your hair.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I think they're going to try for sure. I mean, it's kind of their thing, right? And, it's traditional in the United States to, on top of hating brown people and Jews, it's also traditional to think the Irish are pulling down the team bit. So it wouldn't, no Irish need apply, certainly a thing that we remember. And I'm sure Trump actually believes we're all drunks and thieves and cattle rustlers. So not unreasonably.
By the way, apparently, I mean, I said by the way to you, but I think it was Frances, our friend Frances, who told us that because she was just there. Was it her or somebody else? But look, the vast majority of the Irish in Ireland do not like Donald Trump.
Oh, they hate his guts.
Rosie O'Donnell lives there now, and she got roses delivered to her house by some anonymous Irish namer. Said, well, you're always welcome here, Rosie.
Yeah, Ireland is unlike Irish Americans, is a pretty radically left-wing place in a lot of ways. It's very pro-Palestinian. It's very not anti-Jewish, but definitely anti-Bibi Netanyahu's government. You know, Ireland is the first place where much of colonialism was tried out. And so there's a very deep-seated
that'll do it
anger about colonialism. I mean, you know, I've said this to you before. What they called Northern Ireland in the beginning, when the British came in and started bringing in Protestant settlers and kicking out the Catholics, it was called the Plantations of Ulster. That's where that term comes from originally. And the first sort of unpaid labor, shall we say it kindly, in the United States were indentured Irish servants who weren't paid for 7 years for the first 7 years they were here. So there's a lot, you know, the Irish have a history. They remember their history quite well. And it leads them to be quite anti-people like Trump.
Yeah. People who struggle tend to leave a mark over a generation or three. So before we get into the list of issues, I wanted to talk with you about Bill Boyle, and I'm so happy you're available to talk to me. I wanted to just ask you what you thought about the conversation I was having just now with Colby Hall, and if people didn't hear that for some reason, how dare you? But it was mostly about the Epstein files, what it means for MAGA, and how much control crazy cartoon conspiracy theorists have over the highest levels of federal government and are serving, of course, in these levels of government. And by the way, one of the most interesting things is Kash Patel, Don Bongino making their careers on, are certainly talking a lot about the Epstein files, then going in where they are and be like, there's nothing to see here. It would suggest that it was always a conspiracy theory made up to get ratings and win elections and split people and divide people. But what are your thoughts about it all and what it means for MAGA that Trump is like, stop talking about it?
Right. Well, so first of all, in regard to Colby, I too am disappointed in his son. So I just want to get that out of the way. Happy, glad that he and I agree on that. Whoever that kid may be, I've never. I
didn't know the boy, but he did seem like a real disappointment.
Yeah, I saw his arm come in. It was a disappointing.
This whole generation, goddammit.
Exactly. So I think the thing that's important to remember is that countries have their own political culture. And while Trump is trying to be Putin in the United States is not Putin's Russia, meaning that it started out as a middle-class revolution against taxes, against control from far away, from having the king board people in your house, et cetera. Like the core political culture of America is populist in a very anti-government way and in a very suspicious way of government. Trump is running into that because the MAGA wave is not a wave created by Trump. MAGA is something that Trump is riding. He happens to be the right guy at the moment to articulate it, but he didn't create it. He didn't think of most of these things. You can tell he just sort of grabs at whatever seems to be the thing of the day and runs with it. So what that means is that Trump doesn't have the ability ultimately to call the shots when MAGA really gets freaked out and obsessed with something, particularly when it comes to conspiracy theories. Trump normally is on the side of the conspiracy. He pretty clearly either himself or his friends or in some other way, there are vulnerabilities in this investigation that he's trying to hide, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
Maybe not personal to him. It might be personal to a bunch of people that support him. I don't know. But what it illustrates is that Trump is riding the wave rather than the other way around. And I think that it is a real problem for Trump and for the MAGA movement because, you know, this is like regular MAGA people. Somebody said on Truth Social, 99% of the comments following his post saying, don't worry about this, like we're intensely negative.
Really important. If you have, we don't have any good metrics, but if you take that one and you add it to the audience poll at Turning Point, which was unanimous, when Charlie Kirk asked people, you would think that this is something that the MAGA movement cares overwhelmingly about. I posted on my local MAGA Facebook page, and these people don't seem to care that much that Trump is looking the other way. My Republican congressman, Mike Lawler, is telling everybody to stop talking about it. Trump is now telling everybody to stop talking about it. And Daddy has called many of the most influential right-wing talkers. I guess I disagree with you, and maybe you're saying it. You would say it a little bit differently, that he is riding the wave. I mean, I think you say he didn't create it. He creates a lot of it on a pretty regular basis. He steals a lot of it from other people, even being the birther conspiracy wasn't his. MAGA wasn't even his, of course, the phrase. But, like when he created the tariffs, he creates a lot of the controversy. He says a lot of the things that the news cycle, I think, often responsibly has to cover because he's the president saying them and doing them. So, is he riding the tiger, or is he the tiger? I
mean, Hitler himself didn't create Nazism, right? I mean, these guys are always on some level. They happen to be the right guy, the right personal tuning fork for that moment in history. So it doesn't mean this is like I'm particularly knocking down great man theory here, by the way. Like, it would have been somebody if it was half an octave different, and probably not the particular people who it came to be. Now, it's important, obviously, that it's Trump, right? We could have definitely gotten someone more effective. We could have definitely gotten somebody more responsible. We could have definitely gotten somebody who could have, ridden this moment in a more effective and a more.
He's been pretty effective.
He's effective, but I mean effective as in governing. I think he's not. I think let's put it this way: he lost a presidential election as an incumbent. That almost never happens. If he was that effective, that would not have happened.
I disagree. Push back on these three terms real quick. On the immigration issue, been pretty effective. You could argue he hasn't done as many deportations even as Obama, yet he will. Most importantly, the most effective thing he got was this big, bad, brutality bill, which is very effective. It's the most massive redistribution of wealth in the history of the modern era of the country. It's a big deal what it does, obviously.
So we'll see. Because, I mean, you look at the polling for immigration enforcement right now, it's collapsing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, effective is FDR to me, where you come in and you change the politics of the country, you change the very fundaments of how politics works, about how the government works,
Trump's done
what
that.
It does for people, et cetera. Trump has done that to a degree. MAGA has done that to a degree. But again, we'll see how long it sticks. I mean, I can see a very obvious situation where most of what they're doing on immigration gets completely reversed as soon as they're out.
Let me ask you, let's drill down into a few issues that I really wanted to talk with you about before you have to go out to your fancy dinner. I know you got something going on because you combed your hair and you look handsome.
Exciting work dinner.
So on Friday, you were flipping out, texting me about the State Department cuts.
Right.
I know you'll recoil at me saying you were flipping out because you're so cool, but you were using a tone that seemed particularly concerned, and I think it's right. I've read about it at this point. Some of those people because you live in D.C. and you say you're not in the intelligence community. Hard to believe, given that shirt alone. But what does it mean? These State Department cuts, and what do the friends of yours that work in the federal government, particularly at state, think about it? There was somebody left a printout on a bathroom at the State Department that said "Resist fascism. Remember your job."
I think what it means is that again, what these guys are doing, what the White House is doing, is they have decided that anything that Democrats think is good is therefore bad. Like soft power, like defending the West, like maintaining America, I
don't think soft power is very masculine.
Yeah, I mean, they just hate anything Democrats like. That's it. There is no rational, normal, intelligent, make America great reason to gut the State Department. None. There is no reason to do that. It doesn't help them get anything done. They've gotten 3 deals out of the 200 they said they were going to get done. Those things get done by having a State Department, right? And they get done by having a National Security Council. Those things are where analysis happens, where simple things like people in NSC say, what's state doing? What are the intelligence people doing? What's the executive branch doing? What's the Department of Commerce doing? Let's make sure this all works in a unified way. Without these structures, that's when you get things like Hegseth and that absolute clown, the other Colby, Elbridge Colby, not your Colby, who, these guys went and just cut aid to Ukraine without anyone being involved in the decision, even in the White House. And you end up with an embarrassing situation where the president has to come back and go, whoa, I didn't agree to that. And happily just reversed it, in theory at least, yesterday or today.
Did we just learn this guy's name, that he was the decision? Elbridge Colby.
Elbridge Colby. He is the
Pentagon official, the center of the weapons pause on Ukraine. Correct. And just for background on that, the president was asked, and it was a real, one would say, embarrassing moment on Earth One, and he'd be embarrassed because he didn't know it happened, right? I think that was the big headline, is that he was asked who paused weapons on Ukraine. He's like, what are you talking about? Who did what?
I don't know. I mean, that's insane. And that, first off, every single one of your allies looks at you and says you're no longer dependable. Second, can you imagine trying to fight a war, a real war, say over Taiwan, when defense is doing something just on its own without even bothering to figure out? If there's no coordination, government doesn't work. And we're really just, what are we in, July? It's been 6 months. Give it another 6 months, and we're really going to see how these sorts of things just burn us completely. It's as a guy in Politico put it, he said it was like a bunch of right-wing Maoists running the federal government. And that is a great way to describe it. It is basically just destruction of of what makes things work for radical purposes that, it'd be weird. Think about it. What are their actual ideological goals here? They don't even articulate them. Their big goal is basically government's bad. We got to cut all this government. You know what happens when you do this? It costs you more money down the road. You're still paying a lot of salaries. Yeah. You end up putting people off. I have a friend who was put furloughed for 4 months. So they hung out at home and collected their salary. And then 4 months later, the government realized, oh crap, she produces a report that she's the only one who reproduces it, and we have to have this report.
Unbelievable.
So then 16 weeks later, she gets a call, hey, why don't you come back into work? So she got paid to sit at home for 4 months. And that's happening all over the place.
And I can't imagine a better example of waste in the private or public sector than that kind of thing. And there's been so much of that. I was just talking to a friend of mine who works, let's say, interior department, and basically talking about that they're not able to do their regular job working on environmental issues, which are really important, because they're bogged down with paperwork from DOGE. They can't do their job. And that's waste. The DOGE's attempt is supposed to make things run more efficiently. It's actually getting in the way of you doing your job efficiently, because you're now focused on fixing the washing machine when your job is to plant seeds to grow trees.
I'll give you a good example. They're dragging people from other jobs at Social Security to have them answer the phones because they've screwed up Social Security so much. And they realized belatedly, oh shit, we fired a bunch of people who did answer the phones. But now the MAGA base is going, hey, the MAGA base wants their Social Security payment. So now they're dragging people who are specialists in accounting or whatever and answering phones 8 hours a day to try to catch up on all the backlog of complaints.
I mean, we could do this all day long talking about how federal government employees are.
Yeah, I'll give you a really great example. And, I have a joke. I say that the American century, we'll look back and we'll realize the American century was not murdered. It committed suicide. The Pentagon just signed a deal for $200 million for the military to use Grok AI in operations. This is Grok AI that was calling itself Mecha Hitler a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's just taking, the Pentagon taking a nuke and blowing its leg off. And that's what these guys are. That apparently is the modus and the method. It's Khmer Doge is my other phrase for it.
Khmer Doge.
Yep.
Deep cut. Look up Khmer Rouge, I think, is what you got to start there.
That is what I'm saying, yes.
Okay, so how about Ukraine, Russia? What is happening there? Trump seems angry. He seems to have found out what everyone who knew anything about Russia knew in the 80s that this guy, Vladimir Putin, is a KGB agent.
Yep, maybe not a nice guy.
And he'll cozy up to you and he'll groom you, but in the end, you work for him, or he's not going to do what you want him to do. Like Trump's observation a week or so ago is like basically that. He's like, Putin will say be nice, but in the end, he doesn't follow through. And it was like, there's no amount of embarrassment that you can have for the guy. Not unlike last night, he's at a soccer stadium. He doesn't leave the stage. Like all these idiosyncratic, today he said the Gaza Strip, I call it the Gaza Strip. And it's like, it's so embarrassing the way he speaks and acts and so on. But in this case, it was real embarrassing because he basically was saying what every president has been briefed on, and everybody that works in intelligence and anybody that knows anything in journalism or foreign policy about Russia and Putin. He was making this observation in 2025. And it almost made you think, well, there could be no way. He's just that dumb. He just is that dumb. He doesn't work for Putin. Putin doesn't have anything on him. He's transactional. He admires the guy. And he realizes he's getting hosed.
Yeah, I mean, the most reliable thing that happens.
Sorry, go ahead.
The most reliable thing you can predict in an American presidency is they're going to try to do a Russia reset. And Bush did it. Obama did it. Trump did it. Biden significantly did not. He came in and said, fuck these guys, they're trouble, and we're going to have to fight them. And then, crazily enough, Trump did it again. Trump is the only one who tried it twice. And in the end, Putin has his goals, right? Putin has decided that the way that he is going to buttress his power and remain on top of the mountain in Russian politics is to conquer Ukraine and be the next Peter the Great. What keeps Putin in power right now is that whoever thinks of himself, whoever looks in the mirror and says, why not me in the Russian power structure? Why can't I can run this country better than this Putin guy? They don't want to get stuck dealing with the end of the war in Ukraine. Because right now, Russia's holding its own, but it's just getting attrited and ground down. Its economy's in trouble. The interest rate in Russia right now is 22%? That's the official interest rate. They're just punch-drunk fighters stumbling along, throwing punches, but not really. They're not doing much really to effectively win in Ukraine. Ukraine's got more will, and it's got more technical ability, and it's got support from the West. As long as that support from the West continues, Russia can't really win, in my opinion. And so if you're the number two guy who might want to boot Putin out, you don't want to kill Putin off and then be the guy who says, okay, we have to leave Ukraine. You'll go too soon thereafter. So what everyone's doing in Russia is Putin is buttressed by the fact that, weirdly enough, that he's in this war. That actually like saves him from trouble because no one else wants that poison chalice. Unfortunately, though, what that means is that, unfortunately, is that Putin can't make a deal. Trump wants to make a deal. But Putin, it's impossible for him to make a deal. Right. If he makes a deal, he's dead, right? And so you're in a situation where Trump is trying to get something out of Putin that Putin can't give him.
Right.
And doesn't want to give him.
Well, which is true of a lot of deals that Trump makes.
Trump is the worst deal maker in modern American history. He's terrible.
When I heard, what was that fucking jackass Kevin Hassett, the stuffy-nosed dweeb who clearly got stuffed in too many lockers with Stephen Miller. And he basically, or one of them was saying, these countries are asking us, what can we do? And he made it sound like genuine, and I'm sure it is genuine because they're saying, what do you want from us in these negotiations? We don't have something to give you. We are ready. Brazil's case. Yeah. You have a trade surplus.
Yeah.
What can we give you? And the negotiators can't negotiate because what Trump wants is for them to change their judicial rulings on the former, he can't make a deal vis-a-vis Russia or many other countries because, as you just said, they don't have anything to give him. But getting back to Russia, it would seem that there are two things we can do right now, U.S. or anybody else, and 100 more, but two main things. Sanctions, so punishing Russia and the economy and the oligarchs and anybody in power, and giving their enemy weapons. It sounds like we're doing the latter. We're continuing to give apparently now significant more weapons to Ukraine,
$10 billion worth in theory.
What is it?
$10 billion worth in theory.
Fascinating, this whole thing, just the relationships in the U.S. and Ukraine and how confusing
which NATO's going to pay for, by the way, by seizing Russian assets.
NATO will pay for the weapons from America to Ukraine seizing Russian assets. Well, that seems to her.
I don't think Trump has figured out. Trump got outmaneuvered by his own people on this one, interestingly, because, for instance, they're saying everyone in Europe has to be up to 5% of their economy or something to
5% of their GDP of defense. Yeah,
that's right. Well, these countries can count the money they're spending on Ukraine through NATO as part of that 5%.
Wow. Good.
So if you're Spain, you say, sure, fuck it, we'll throw $2 billion in, and that gets us to 4.5, right? And by the way, like, I think that's perfectly legitimate. Defending Ukraine is defending NATO.
Yeah.
But the Trump himself, I'm sure, has never even thought about that. And a year from now, he's going to bitch, and Spain's going to say, hey, we're at 4.2, and Sweden's going to be at 6.5, and so Trump literally. There's just a bunch of people waiting. Clearly, there were just a bunch of people waiting in his office for him to finally realize that Putin was blowing smoke up his ass. And once he realized that, all of a sudden he's open to, hey, you know what, boss? You don't want to pay for it. We get it.
Yeah.
But you know who will pay for it? The Germans will pay for it, the Poles, everyone else. And you can sell American arms to them. In essence, that's what we were already doing. Like this is a distinction without almost any difference at all. And what's weird about it, though, what's fascinating, two things are going on that are really interesting. Trump really, if he has two beliefs that are not malicious in his whole sort of mind state, one of them is that he wants a deal. He has, which I don't think trying to make deals is in and of itself bad if you're a normal person. But the other thing is it really bothers him. The airstrikes on Kyiv apparently really bothered him. There's some slight glimmer of humanity in the guy that he. I
don't think so. I think that
I will tell you, it's the one thing that he is consistently, and I hate Trump, and I follow this issue very tightly. It's the one thing that he has consistently brought up since he came into office was, hey, these airstrikes are bad. These airstrikes are bad. And now, where that gets interesting, right, is Putin has just started doing the biggest airstrikes of the war on Kyiv. 1,200 strikes in one night on Ukraine. And that, again, gets back at where everyone in this is sort of locked into their position now, where Putin is just doing nothing on the ground. He can't get anywhere on the ground. So he's trying terror attacks now on Ukrainian cities. And he, again, is back to not really having a choice in the matter.
Terror attacks from the sky, bombs, missiles.
Shahed, Iranian-style Shaheds, cruise missiles, everything they can throw at it.
I don't buy that he cares about the violence of the people. I think it's the same thing as what happened vis-a-vis Iran and Israel. Remember, he said, stop, ceasefire, and they didn't.
Yeah.
He's yelling down the line, ceasefire. And if they don't listen to him, they're defying an order, but they didn't listen to him. They defied the order. And then he got mad and he swore. He's like, these fuckers have been fighting forever. They don't know what they're doing. Same thing, I think, in Ukraine. He's telling Putin, stop. He told him, he scolded him many times.
Right.
And today he made a joke at the prayer breakfast or in front of a bunch of religious leaders where he basically said, he's like, you know what? Putin's not great. He's like, give me a hard time. I mean, I told him to stop and he says he's going to stop. And then I tell my wife, I told Putin to stop. And my wife says, well, I don't think he's listening to you because he just bombed a nursing home. And those religious leaders laughed at that line today.
Did they really?
No, I don't think he cares about the people of Ukraine. If he's joking about a nursing home getting bombed, getting a laugh, I'm pretty sure that's not in front of religious leaders, by the way.
I might have to give you that one. But I will let me put it this way. For whatever reason, that particular action on the Russians' part seems to activate Trump.
Because he told him not to. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Daddy told him not to, and he's doing it. That's why. Why isn't that it?
Fair enough. Well, I withhold judgment on this stuff because sometimes things come out weirder than you think.
All right, fair enough. But you're like, I don't know why it is. It's like he told you. It's like they're defying Daddy.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, by the way, right now, is every month that Ukraine gets aid from us and from Europe that's sufficient for their defense needs is another month we get closer to a potential Russian collapse, probably economic. And, last year, this time when you and I were talking, I said, they got another year and a half. I think we're in the below a year mark at this point, where we're going to start to see things come unstuck for somebody. And right now, as Ukraine's getting aid, it looks a lot more like it's going to come unstuck for Russia.
You're talking about the balance of the war and
just that Russia suddenly can't pay their troops and people start walking away, or their rail system just can't supply the front line. They're just going to start running into really ever more difficult situations. And I'll tell you, Julia Yaffe, the week this war started, the week before it started, actually, I was saying the Russians are going to go in. She was saying, I can't believe they would do it. And I said, why not? And she said, Kerensky. And Kerensky was after the Tsars fell, Kerensky was the guy who took over. And that led to the Bolshevik Revolution. The provisional president of Russia was Kerensky. Her point being that, like, if they do this, ultimately it leads to internal collapse. I think we're pretty close. I do.
Close to internal Russian collapse.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it doesn't necessarily look like the Bolshevik Revolution. It won't, actually. But if it just becomes they're just incapable of fighting, continuing. These things, they happen, as Hemingway said, he went bankrupt slowly, then quickly. This is, I think, a similar situation.
Even if best case scenario for Russia, they were able to take more land, take every city, and take all of Ukraine, the insurgency, the Ukrainian insurgency would make the Iraqi insurgency look like.
Well, so the Russians would happily destroy every town. That's their methodology. But their problem is, it would actually be a lot worse for them than Afghanistan or Iraq, because Western Ukraine is mostly forests and hills, and it's easy to hide in. And Poland and everyone else would be pouring in arms. Right. So I think it would make Afghanistan and Iraq look like child's play.
Last thing I want to ask you about is news out of we're learning more, as you would, 2 weeks after the Israeli and American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. What do we know?
What we know now, the only country that is saying that Iran's nuclear weapons program has been seriously damaged is Israel. Nobody else is saying that. And Israel is saying, oh, we've totally set them back. But when you read the announcements